Hi everybody, I am now in Peru. More specifically, I'm in Cusco, which is up in the mountains of Peru, so it's a little hard to breathe because I'm used to being near sea level. Well, today I wanted to talk about love. It's a topic that a lot of people know something about, but you know, just like language, just like other things, love can come in many different forms. One of the types of love that most people are familiar with is the idea of romantic love. You know, the kind where you have to go out and make yourself look nice so other people think you look nice. That kind. Then there's love for your family. You know, the people that either gave birth to you or you chose to have as people as if they gave birth to you. I mean, it's different types of love for different types of people. But isn't it all kind of the same thing? Then of course, you start getting into the more abstract kinds of love. You know, the kind of love for your job, or your friends, or your country, things like that. I mean, those also count as love, don't they? So, this obviously begs the question then, what is love? I mean, you have on one hand something that people tend to recognize pretty well, love for a significant other or something, and at the same time you can also have love for friends, love for family. They're kind of different, but yet at the same time kind of similar. Well, what's the underlying thing that brings them all together? For one, for sure, it's going to be some sort of strong emotion. So that at least distinguishes it from just liking someone or being neutral towards something. But then there's also the point of it being positive, because I can strongly dislike something or strongly want to stay away from something, but that differs from something like love again, which seems to have some sort of positive and strong connotation towards it. But then what's the difference between a positive and strong connotation towards a family member versus a friend? Maybe it doesn't really matter what the difference is, because a lot of times you hear people say things like, oh, I love my significant other just like my friends, or I find my family to be just like my friends, or something like that. And that feels the same. It almost feels like there's arbitrary labels just dividing each of these into different categories. But at the same time, it doesn't seem arbitrary, because there are certain things I would do with my friends that I wouldn't necessarily do with my family, or vice versa. And so this idea of love kind of gets tangled up in this idea of where we place people in terms of the relationships we have with them. So maybe the differences lie in that sort of subtle distinction that we give these groups. Maybe it's a sort of flavor of love that we give to other people. And so the love that we may show a family member just is that subtly different from the love that we would show a friend. And it's meaningful enough, at least for most people, to make that distinction. Regardless of the feeling itself, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree that expressing this love is really important. By now, most people have heard of the theory of the different love languages. It's something that was brought about by a man named Gary Chapman, and it talks about a few different ways that people express love. For example, there's a difference between expressing love by spending time with someone versus giving them a gift. Well, this expression of love is kind of interesting to see, because you'll see things like holding hands, or you'll see things like writing notes to each other, or doing something which a lot of people may consider to be romantic. But a lot of times those can fall into the other categories as well. So you may hold hands with your friends. You may write each other sort of intimate sort of notes. But yet at the same time, these different expressions come across, and different people may express things in different ways. Once we leave the realm of relationships with people, it starts to get a little bit more straightforward. For example, we may feel these strong positive emotions towards a country. Seeing flags all over the place, in the United States, in Peru, in Colombia, it was pretty common. And you could see that people do actually love their country, or at least show that through things like patriotism. For example, I was trying to get some footage for this segment about love at the flower festival that happens once a year in Medellin in Colombia. It's a really good display of the love of the country, and also just how the efforts that people put towards growing flowers in that area. However, it was extremely crowded, and so you only really got shots like this. And, you know, that isn't so great. But then you get things like love of doing things, for example. Some people love skiing, or they love running. Well, it's really interesting to see how that plays out, because I loved traveling, and I loved being able to explore and try some new things. Then I also had the chance to go visit the desert and go in a buggy through some sand dunes and go sandboarding. Okay. Okay. One of the important things that people tend to forget is the idea of loving yourself. It's something really tough to be able to do, because we're so focused on the love for other people, or the love for things, or the love for experiences, that sometimes we forget that we need to learn how to love ourselves. It's something that I'm definitely exploring and continuing to explore, because it really just means something different. It's a different type of love. Different than that strong positive emotion towards anything else, but it also takes just that extra bit of effort to be able to make it happen. I mean, all these sorts of loves require concerted effort, but this love for self, or loving yourself, this one seems harder. And that's all I really have for today. Join me next time.